We all have tendencies to fall into certain patterns, or habits, or addictions, whatever you want to call them. Basically anything that we do again and again, or a type of situation that we keep getting into again and again. Now some of these patterns are good patterns, or good habits. They improve the quality of our life and well-being, and they move us closer to being the best version of ourselves. But for a lot of us, a lot of these patterns are negative patterns, or bad habits. They hold us back, they distract us from our goals, they lead us down the wrong path, etc. Basically keeping us from being the best version of ourselves. Think of these negative patterns or bad habits as steps backwards. Every time you fall back into these patterns, you take steps backwards in life. So these negative patterns are detrimental to our growth. If you find yourself in a standstill pattern, stagnant, in the same position, not really moving forward in life, or you keep finding yourself in the same situations again and again, in the same types of relationships, feeling like you're not getting anywhere, then you probably have some patterns and habits that are holding you back. So you want to eliminate these patterns so that you can move forward and continue to grow. Now we're all going to take steps backwards from time to time. We're all going to make mistakes. That's just life. No one's perfect, right? But if you minimize the number of steps backwards that you take, the faster you will progress and the further you will go in life. So you want to eliminate as many of these negative patterns as you can, because every negative pattern that you eliminate is eliminating steps backwards, therefore increasing the number of steps that you take forward. But before you can eliminate these patterns, two things have to happen. Number one, you first have to be aware of these patterns. You have to know that you even have these patterns or habits to begin with. Because you can't fix a problem if you don't even know that there's a problem to begin with. You have to know there's a problem first before you can fix it, right? Now I know that may seem like common sense, but this is the step where most people fail. Because 95% of our patterns and habits are subconscious. We're not even aware that we have these patterns. So, how do we become aware of something that we're not aware of? Usually somebody would bring it to our attention, right? Or we would experience an event that causes us to think about it, and it comes to our attention that way, or whatever. But how do you become aware of something that you're not aware of without having to rely on external factors? Well, one way is you can raise your own awareness so that you naturally become aware of these things without having to rely on external factors. But that comes with practice and experience. And yes, awareness is something that you can practice. You can practice mindfulness, and after a while it becomes second nature to you. Now, here's something that you can do that will help you with this step, becoming aware of your patterns, and also just raising your awareness in general. If you haven't already, start a journal. And in this journal, write down any significant thing, activity, or event that happens throughout the day. Anything that triggers an emotional response, any significant people that you interacted with, any significant thoughts that you had, your sleep activity, what you ate, things like that. Basically anything that can affect your state, your mental state, your emotional state, your physical state, etc. And you don't have to go into detail. Just jot down a few notes, just enough to help you recall the details when needed. And you want to do this as many days as you can. Ideally, you want to do it every day, but I know sometimes that's not possible. So just try to do it as often as you can. It's not a big deal if you miss a day. Just try to be consistent as possible. And after you've done it for a while, go back into your journal and see if you notice any patterns. And what I mean by patterns is, for example, maybe you notice that every time you eat a certain type of food, it makes you feel a certain way. Or maybe you notice that every time you hang out with a certain person, something bad always happens. Something always seems to go wrong. Or maybe every time you drink a certain type of alcohol, you behave in a certain way. Or maybe you notice that you always seem to attract the same types of people, the same types of relationships. Or it could be a whole chain of events. Maybe you notice that every time you get less than 5 hours of sleep, you get into a conflict with somebody the next day because you're more irritable. And that causes you to be in a bad mood all day. And that causes you to get into an argument with your significant other when you get home from work. And it happens again and again, every time you don't get enough sleep. Those are all patterns, but it could be anything. Those are just a few examples, but basically anything that happens again and again. Now, there's cause and effect. If there's an effect, then there had to be something that caused it, right? So if you want to eliminate an effect, then you have to eliminate what caused it. Makes sense, right? So to fix a problem, you have to get to the root cause of the problem. If you just try to cover it up or just treat the symptoms, then the problem won't ever go away. You can avoid it temporarily, but it'll just keep coming back again and again. you'll have to keep reliving it. It'll continue to haunt you until you finally decide to deal with it. So just get to the root cause of the problem and eliminate it, and you eliminate the effects. There will no longer be a need to counter the effects or treat the symptoms because you fixed the problem. It's like pulling weeds from a garden. If you just cut the weeds, then they'll just keep growing back. But if you pull them out from the roots, then they won't grow back. You want to remove these weeds from your garden. These negative patterns are your weeds, and your mind and body is your garden. So pay attention to the effects of each pattern that you find and see if you can figure out what's causing it. Go back into your journal, trace back your steps, and try to pinpoint where it started. Maybe you notice that it started when you started eating differently, when you changed your diet, or when you started hanging out with a certain person, or when you started drinking coffee, etc. Maybe you notice that every time you experience a certain emotion, you do the same thing or consume the same thing every time. Maybe you need to deal with the issue that's triggering that emotion. Eliminate the cause and you eliminate the problem. But you have to be aware of the problem first before you can find the cause. So being aware of your patterns and habits is key, and this exercise will help you do that. And the more you practice awareness, the more it becomes natural to you. As you become more and more aware of your patterns and habits, you'll be able to catch yourself in the moment when you start to slip back into an old pattern. And from there, you can make more conscious choices. You'll start to become more aware of things as they happen. Okay? So first thing, awareness. You have to be aware of your patterns. Now, the second thing that needs to happen before you can eliminate these patterns is you have to decide that that's what you're going to do. You're now aware of your negative patterns, you know what you need to eliminate, but are you going to make the decision to eliminate it? Are you willing to go through the process of eliminating it? A lot of us know that we have self-destructive patterns. We're very well aware of some of these patterns, but we just don't take the necessary actions to eliminating them. We continue surrounding ourselves with the wrong people, getting into the same situations, letting our addictions control us, falling back into the same self-destructive patterns, and we spiral until we finally experience a catastrophic event that finally wakes us up. Don't wait for that to happen. Don't wait until you hit that wall or hit rock bottom. Prevent that from happening by deciding to make that change now. Because remember, no one can make you do anything. You're the only person who decides what you're going to do or not do. Even if someone was to hold a gun to your head and told you to do something or they would shoot you, you're still the one who decides whether you're going to do it or not. No one can make you do anything. They can only influence you. They can influence you with force, but they can't make you do anything. My point is, bottom line, no matter what the situation is, you're the only one who decides what you're going to do or not do. Like the saying goes, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. I can try to inspire you and motivate you all I want. I can make as many videos as I want to try to give you the information to educate you. You can watch as many videos as you want, read as many books as you want, but all of that won't matter if you don't apply that knowledge. Any knowledge that you don't apply somewhere is just useless information, right? You may have the knowledge, but you still have to decide to take action. No one can decide that for you. I mean, you don't have to remove all your negative patterns at once. Work on a few at a time or one at a time. Go at your own pace, and just remember that every negative pattern that you eliminate is eliminating steps backwards. And the more steps backwards that you eliminate, the faster you will progress and the further you will go in life. And just remember that the power is within you. The power isn't out here or up there or over there. The power is within you. You just have to reconnect with it.